Merry Christmas, everyone. And I was going to try and react to something festive today, but I honestly couldn't really find anything. Like, I was going to try and find Christmas fails for 2023, but I sadly could not find any. So I decided to do the next best thing that I could find by watching giant mechs fight Monsterverse Titans and everything. Because honestly, who doesn't like that? And and that's pretty much a good way to celebrate Christmas, I guess. Pacific Rim versus the Monsterverse. Now, I know my Monsterverse not too well, but well enough. Pacific Rim, I don't know shit about Pacific Rim, okay? I don't know two shits about Pacific Rim. The only thing I know is that they have giant mechs called Jaegers, and they're fighting something. Yeah, that's how in the dark I am whenever it comes to Pacific Rim. So I don't know who's gonna win, so we're gonna find out. Let's get into it. Regardless of what happens, I pray that my boy Godzilla comes out as the top G, because, I mean, he's Godzilla. Why wouldn't he? Alright, let's get into it. Tell me what you got,
What
Goji
if
Center.
Jaegers made themselves present in the Monsterverse?
I'm
In
curious
this
too.
episode, we will analyze different scenarios where these giant mechs dared to wage war against these types of kaiju. But
This mech's
not
definitely look
just
cool as
any
shit.
monsters. Today, we will feature not just one, but three different titans. Kong, the G-Man, and Mechagodzilla.
Alright, I want to make a prediction. Kong may get his ass kicked. Because out of these three, Kong is the weakest, okay? He just is. I mean, he's smart and everything, but he is the weakest. Who knows, maybe he'll surprise me.
All with different combat philosophies, weapons, and objectives that would make each scenario unique. If this is your first time here, please remember to follow or subscribe to our channel to be the first to see epic kaiju fight content. Coming up, Pacific Rim Jaegers in the Monsterverse.
Alright, let's see it.
Before we start, we want to see some Jaeger action.
Alright, let's get into it.
Before we throw our Jaegers against our Monsterverse kaiju, we need to first understand what these things really are.
Yeah, because I don't know shit about Jaegers, so...
Why they
go
were
on.
built, and how they physically compare against Monsterverse Titans.
Yeah.
These mechanized giants are featured in Pacific Rim. In this cinematic universe, Earth is attacked from within by super intelligent alien life forms that unleash massive sea monsters via underwater portals and attack populated areas.
Okay.
After seeing that nuking these creatures
Yeah, you would definitely need a giant mech to fight those things.
only led to self-destruction, the United Nations greenlighted an initiative to build massive human-shaped mechs, which would leverage human mobility, dexterity, and intelligence, and amplify these abilities on a larger scale, enough
Alright.
to fight monsters in hand-to-hand combat. By fighting them in this manner, humanity would no longer
That
have
is some
to use
Power
nukes and
Ranger.
destroy
That is some Power Ranger shit that I'm looking at right there.
their own cities. Building these could come at a massive cost, however. For example, just
Yeah, I can only imagine how much it would cost to make this shit, because holy hell. Like... like, can my tax dollars go to this?
one of these could cost up to $100 billion, and some are rumored to cost a lot more. But how big are these
Yikes.
compared to Monsterverse
Poor wallets.
kaiju? These Jaegers varied in size from 230 to up to 280 feet in height. In terms of
Alright.
weight, these were a lot lighter than anticipated. Now,
Okay.
admittedly, the official weights for these Jaegers are all over the place, some ranging from 2,000 tons to up to 7,000 tons.
Yeah.
For the purposes of making these as realistic as possible in this video, we
Yeah, then I imagine they'd be pretty varied in size and weight depending on what models and everything, because they all look like they got their own unique type of thing. I could be wrong, though.
will align with the higher-end figures provided. By comparing the physical proportions of an average Jaeger to our Monsterverse opponents, we have a massive gap in terms of weight and height, meaning
Yeah.
that it would be illogical for a single Jaeger to successfully defeat any of these three titans with ease. All three
Yeah.
of these titans, especially Mechagodzilla, would have a massive height advantage over any of these Jaegers. Not to mention
Yeah.
that a single swipe of these extremely heavy kaiju would pack enough force to destroy a Jaeger with a single hit.
Wow, so they're kind of fucked in this situation right now that it's looking at.
Especially since all of these kaiju here have some serious upper body strength.
Yeah.
The only way to make these scenarios at all.
And then, you know, there's their massive weapons, because Kong's got his damn axe thing, and Godzilla's got his atomic breath, and Mechagodzilla is a weapon entirely. Yeah, and add that to whatever the fuck that gauntlet thing Kong's gonna have in the new Godzilla movie is gonna do whatever the hell that does. And whatever the hell pink Godzilla's gonna do. Which looks a lot better than I thought it would.
All interesting will be by assigning a number of Jaegers to take on these kaiju.
Okay.
Not a 1v1 match, but a squad of these to carry on an assault against our Monsterverse contestants.
Yeah, that seems more like a fair fight, because just one of them going up against one kaiju does not seem fair at all, with the massive weight and height difference, especially with how they are in general. So, yeah. I'd say it's definitely more of a fair fight to put multiple against one Monsterverse Titan, because Jesus.
Now that we have a clearer picture of how these Jaegers could perform, let us now start analyzing our first battle scenario.
Alright, let's do it.
Number 1, Jaegers versus Kong.
Alright, let's see it.
We will begin with a kaiju whose best strengths include high problem-solving skills, high dexterity, mobility, and weapon-wielding capabilities.
Yep.
Defeating a titan such as this will require immense upper body strength, and definitely handheld weapons that can counter its own. Fortunately for the Jaeger program, it has a plethora of mechs with different types of handheld weapons that could possibly aid in inflicting damage to Kong.
Was that a taser whip? That looked awesome.
By housing humans inside a mech, this will allow these pilots to literally know what it would feel like to fight Kong, just as if they were fighting another human. Except...
Does that include making them feel pain, too, whenever they get hit? Because I can definitely see that being a drawback for them. Because, like, if you're going to be piloting mech, I'd say get rid of the pain inhibitors and just, you know, able to just mash right through that shit without feeling anything.
Kong is far superior. Compared to an average Jaeger build, Kong is much more robust, wider, and not only that, he has proven to be one of the most intelligent titans in the Monsterverse.
Yeah, he do be smart as hell in the movies, though. But, you know, he still wasn't being Godzilla, because anyone that walked into the movie theater to watch Kong versus Zilla and thought Kong was going to win, I hate to tell you, that was not going to happen. They definitely had me in the Hong Kong fight for a little bit, but even then, it did not surprise me when Zilla came out on top.
In terms of combat...
But that does not mean that Kong gave him a good run for his money, though. Because he was kicking the shit out of him for a good minute.
Ability almost as intelligent as a human. Knowing this, we can rule out the possibility of a single Jaeger defeating Kong. We will need a lot more.
Yeah, because one Jaeger against any of these guys just seems completely unfair.
This specific fight, we think the most important factors to consider is 1, dexterity, 2, mobility, and 3, intelligence. In terms of dexterity, both humans and Kong will be able to wield handheld weapons. Kong just happens to be a master at this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Once vastly outnumbered, an intelligent titan like Kong would quickly look for anything that would give him the edge before he engages in close combat. Anything, such as his axe, for instance, would immediately give Kong the edge in handheld weapons.
Yeah, the sad thing is that he wouldn't be able to have the full he wouldn't be able to use the full potential of that thing, because doesn't Godzilla have to activate that thing with his atomic breath to make that axe at full strength like it did in the Kong vs. Zilla movie? Because that's just going to be the one downside, but I don't think it's going to be too much of a drawback. But I feel like if it was activated all the way, he'd just be able to slice right through all this shit. No problem.
As there is absolutely no weapon possessed by...
Because whenever he was fighting Mechagodzilla, once that thing got activated with atomic breath, he was slicing the fuck out of Mechagodzilla.
...by any Jaeger that could successfully counter this axe. This weapon alone is estimated to be approximately 207 feet in length, more than
Yikes.
2/3 the length of the largest Jaegers. Imagine someone hurling an extremely heavy axe at you. The results would be
no thanks.
catastrophic.
Yeah.
This weapon, with these swing speeds, would be able to send a single Jaeger flying or potentially cut it in half.
Damn, don't even need to have it
Dispatching Jaegers in
activated.
this form would only mean that Kong would quickly be able to render down a squadron of Jaegers to half their number. In order to defeat Kong, the remaining Jaegers would have to resort to their numbers and strategy. One thing that Kong has a serious advantage over the Jaegers in is mobility.
Yeah.
Now, it's important to note that
Yeah,
not
because he do be jumping all over the place.
all of these are created equal. Some Jaegers, such as the Mark VI seen in Pacific Rim Uprising, were a lot more agile than its predecessors.
Okay.
But compared to Kong, these pale in comparison.
Yeah.
Jaegers do not have a leap ability like Kong does, meaning that
Oh,
in
really?
terms of movement, Kong would easily
You think you'd want to give these guys some form of jumping ability? Why do they not have that? That just seems like bad design, honestly. Like imagine putting these guys against a Monsterverse Titan that could fly, like Ghidorah or something, or Mothra. Well, I don't know if Mothra can attack with I don't know if Mothra can attack without doing physical damage, but if anything can just fly and shoot you with like some breath or some magic attack or whatever from like far away, hey, then it just sounds like these guys are just screwed.
be able to pick these off one by flanking them and taking them out on their weaker sides. The only way to defeat this creature would be by teamwork and a clever use of some of their better weapons, such as the arc whip capable of lassoing Kong's appendages, disabling a limb for some time.
Yeah.
Or furthermore, the use of a gravity sling, a weapon capable of hurling objects at Kong, leveraging centrifugal force. A constant barrage of objects hurled at a distance would potentially weaken this Titan. But then again, Kong's ability to throw back these objects would cancel this out, leaving
Yeah.
the Jaegers with little to no chance of defeating this Titan. A giant ape with supernatural leaping abilities, immense strength, dexterity, and intelligence grants the Monsterverse its first win.
Yeah.
Though realistically,
Yeah, I don't really see them having a high, if at all, any chance of beating Kong.
if any kaiju were to side with humans, it would have been Kong.
Yeah.
So in a real-life situation, we would most likely never see this happen.
Yeah, that is true. If anything, I feel like Kong would work side to side with the Jaegers against some big threat. Godzilla too, most likely. Well, as long as the humans don't keep on pissing him off and throwing bombs at him, you know? Because they keep doing that, I feel like he's just gonna say, fuck you guys, and then start lighting them up. Like, just no... with, like, just no discrimination or anything. He's just gonna be like, fuck all of you.
Up next, humanity will face a Titan who will voluntarily attack humanity if
Yeah.
provoked.
Yeah.
Number
See? Like, if you attack Godzilla, he ain't gonna just sit there and take it. He's gonna be like, the fuck you say? And then he's gonna come and hit you up.
2, Jaegers versus the G-Man.
Yeah.
After a crushing defeat against Kong, the Jaegers now have to switch their attention to a Titan that, if provoked, could unleash calamity and destruction to all humanity.
Yeah.
Godzilla.
It's the king!
Now, picking a fight with a massive 390-foot-tall kaiju with atomic weapons will be no easy task.
Oh, no.
Especially since this kaiju is a
Yeah, he is not gonna make it easy for them at all. And another question is, do they have a chance at all against Godzilla? Well, let's find out.
whopping 99,000 tons, more than 13 times the weight of a single Jaeger, assuming Jaegers were actually that heavy. To put
Oh,
this
man,
into
man.
weight perspective, this would be the same as a 160-pound person fighting against approximately 13 overweight house cats. Except you're armed with atomic ray weaponry, and they aren't.
Yeah.
If you were a Jaeger pilot, you would now have the honor of being able to combat Godzilla in hand-to-hand combat at a larger scale. But
Okay.
you're not alone. Now, how would the Jaegers fare against such odds? To begin, let's bring out some of the most important factors to consider. Ranged weaponry, overall strength, and corporal builds.
Yeah.
In the past, we have seen
I feel like one atomic breath would just completely destroy a Jaeger. Maybe.
the G-Man go up against different enemies. In 1v1 confrontations, Godzilla proves to be a champion in single-hand combat.
Yeah.
But against many foes, Godzilla will struggle a bit more.
Oh yeah, he was struggling against those, what were they called, Mutos? Yeah, he was struggling against those, and they had him pinned down and kept stabbing the shit out of him too, didn't they? Like, damn.
This time, the G-Man will now face an entire squadron of Jaegers.
Yeah.
So the best thing we can do to simulate the outcome is to think like Godzilla. We know this guy has a solid strategic acumen and will try to exploit any advantage he can before engaging in hand-to-hand combat. As Godzilla sees these approaching, he will most likely be met with a barrage of explosive weaponry. In response, Godzilla will deploy atomic breath and will attempt to wipe out as much of the opposing squadron as possible since he's severely outnumbered. Can Godzilla destroy Jaegers at range?
Can he?
Yes. This
I thought
atomic
so.
blast is so powerful that against much lighter opponents, these would literally be sent flying.
And I feel like if Godzilla went nuclear, like, just give up at this point, because that's one thing I don't think they're going to be able to, especially with how the nuclear blast went when he fought Ghidorah with the nuclear shit, like, where it just goes all around and was basically just pulsing a force field of nuclear atomic shit. Like, I just say, just give up, just go run. Like, just run away, go home, retire. You're not winning. Are these guys going to win against any of these guys? Because it's not looking like, it ain't looking so good for the Jaegers.
Or simply obliterated due to the blast. Once seeing that long-range combat is detrimental, the Jaegers would have to close in and fight Godzilla as one. Which brings us to our next attributes, strength and builds. A 99,000-ton kaiju equipped with extremely strong upper and lower body strength would be able to easily dismantle the smaller Jaegers with ease using its jaws and sharp-tipped claws. But a more devastating weapon against these Jaegers would be its tail. This particular Titan would be more difficult to attack from the rear thanks to this weapon. We have seen this tail in action, sending Kong flying and
he'd be doing combos with that tail.
Even executing another Titan. A much lighter Jaeger hit by the tip of this tail, for instance, would instantly be sliced down the middle. Getting hit in the thicker section would make this Jaeger fair game to get smashed to pieces, or worse, suffer a solid impact by the smaller dorsal plates. But will any of these weapons cause serious harm to Godzilla?
Will they?
Harm, yes, but serious, not likely. Godzilla's skin is capable of withstanding very high temperatures. Its thick hide helps mitigate deep flesh.
Godzilla be tanking hits like crazy. Like, it's just, like, hell, didn't he get hit with in the face with like the scale axe thing from Kong, and then you know, minutes later he got up like it didn't even fucking happen. Because you think that would have left, like, you know, a giant head injury on him, but yet he just nothing. There's just nothing. It's like, does the axe even help? Well, clearly it did, because he stabbed him in because Kong was able to get him in the thigh in the movie, but, you know, that didn't really seem to help too much, because he just pulled it out, threw it away, and then just kept going like it didn't even fucking happen. That's the king for you, baby.
Wounds, and a body so dense that it would be proportionally difficult to penetrate, given that these weapons are very light compared to the G-Man's dense body.
They are.
Almost like trying to cut through lead with a knife. Although possible, it would take an immense force behind.
Yeah, and I think with the whole part of him getting hit on the head with the axe was more, and him not having like a huge injury or anything, was more for theoretical, Jesus Christ, theatrical effects, I guess. I'm probably not saying that word right, but we're just gonna pretend I did. Yeah. Anyways, let's get back into it.
Find the strike to cut deep. Another challenge is that most of these blades used by these Jaegers are superheated, meaning that if they do cut, these would most likely cauterize the wound, stopping any bleeding. As we can see, bringing down Godzilla at any proximity would be a difficult task, even for an entire squadron of Jaegers.
Sounds impossible
Almost
for them.
impossible without taking heavy losses. Although fighting against Godzilla could be necessary on some occasions, Godzilla doesn't voluntarily attack unless provoked.
Yeah.
The final monster on this list will attack without provocation.
Yeah, the Mechagodzilla will. But yeah, honestly, if it came down to these guys being in the same universe, I think it'd just be best to, you know, just leave him alone. Because the way I see it is, as long as you just leave Godzilla alone and just let him mind his own business, and we mind our own business, it's pretty much fine. You know, you can live codependently in peace. And honestly, that's what these dumbass people should be doing in the Monsterverse. But nope, they see a giant monster, fucking kill it. And then they act surprised whenever they attack them back, and it's like, yeah, what the fuck were you expecting? I mean, it was just minding its own business. Like, just leave it alone. Like, Jesus.
Number 3.
Oh, and then another thing I just thought of, make the Pacific Rim Jaegers fight Godzilla when he's in the water. No chance at that point, for real. Yeah.
Jaegers versus Mechagodzilla. We left this one till the end because
This, honestly, is just gonna look like the biggest stomp out of all of this, though.
this confrontation is interesting in different aspects. In many ways, both Jaegers and Mechagodzilla are very similar, both being controlled by a pilot or pilots via neural handshake, or in Mechagodzilla's case, psionic link.
Yeah, wasn't Mechagodzilla in Kong vs. Zilla controlled by a dude, but also possessed by King Ghidorah or something? I don't know if it was actually possessed by King Ghidorah or just had, like, some of its power infused in the thing or something like that. I need to watch the movie again. I haven't watched it in a bit. I don't know. But one thing I did find interesting that I do actually know is that the old Mechagodzilla, like, I think it was the very first one, the one called Kiryu, that one was not only a remote-controlled weapon that apparently had worse battery than the fucking Nintendo Switch. That's a joke from Death Battle, by the way. But apparently it was also possessed by the first and original Godzilla, which is just crazy and just awesome as shit.
Mechagodzilla's pilot would basically have to enter a transitory state in which his brain would intermingle with Mechagodzilla's AI, or more specifically, Ghidorah's consciousness. Both being very trippy processes, but not as trippy as kinda sharing a consciousness with a homicidal, three-headed, bloodthirsty killer.
Yeah.
In this
I can only imagine the effect this would have on your psyche. Like, Jesus.
We will have to take into account the mechanical and technological aspect of this battle, or war against Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
The factors to watch out for are ranged weaponry, melee weapons, and psionic infrastructure. We are potentially entering the most brutal of these fights, given that Mechagodzilla is pure evil and is equipped with precisely the type of weaponry to exercise its brutality. Go check out this video to see what—
Actually, I'm pretty sure there were multiple forms of Mechagodzilla, Godzillers. Pretty sure there were multiple versions of Mechagodzilla, though. There was like Kiryu, and then I think there was one that was just straight up an alien, controlled by aliens, and then we have this one now. And then there's also just multiple mechas in general, because wasn't there like a Mecha King Ghidorah too, or something like that too? I think they just used the corpse of King Ghidorah for, I don't know. That's old Monsterverse stuff. This is modern Monsterverse stuff. Yeah. And I know even less about old Monsterverse than modern Monsterverse. I just know very small tidbits and stuff. So yeah.
What we're talking about. But first, let's draw up this scenario. A squadron of Jaegers advances to face off a massive 400-foot-tall Mechagodzilla.
They're not gonna win.
This Titan almost doubles the height of the smaller members of this squadron, equipped with buzzsaw hands, industrial grinder jaws, spinning titanium blade tail, and a lethal proton scream. This battle will be—
not to mention a fucking energy punch, too.
Nothing short of devastating. If you didn't know, Mechagodzilla's AI is built to resemble the G-Man's own thought processes, meaning that this standoff would probably resemble the one against Godzilla.
Oh no.
Figuring out that it would be better off by killing a good chunk of this squadron at a distance. This gets all the more interesting once this guy gets up and personal with the Jaegers. In terms of physical strength, we see that Mechagodzilla was up to par, if not stronger than a worn-out Godzilla and Kong at the end of GVK.
I do want to see what would have happened if Godzilla was at full energy and full strength against Mechagodzilla. But I don't think the outcome would be too different, but I could be entirely wrong about that. And it could just be an extremely close fight. Maybe.
Supercharged punch was enough to send Godzilla through skylines, and its tail impacts enough to smack Kong to the ground. Jaegers? Easy, except that an evil pair of pilots would humiliate these Jaegers. This animal's strong forelimbs would literally dismember the Jaegers one by one, resisting any missile barrages or impacts inflicted by less dense weapons. But the most devastating weapon of all...
Add that to the fact that this thing can't feel pain because it's a robot just like them, so they're not gonna have any, like, pain recoil like Zilla and Kong would.
Is its scythed tail. One pierce of these tips is enough to put any of these smaller Jaegers out of commission in seconds. But
and there ain't no way this thing weaponizes that shit more than Godzilla could.
how would humanity defeat Mechagodzilla? Although it has become clear that beating this mech with Jaegers is almost impossible, we must remember that Mechagodzilla was also human-built, and that there are also other forces at play here.
Ooh, are we gonna hack it? Is that how we're gonna defeat it?
No, not like this, though.
Oh.
Up in the heights of outer space, there is supposedly a satellite which transmits psionic signals or commands back down to the mech.
Oh.
This network allows the pilot and Ghidorah to control the mech remotely without them having to be housed inside the mech itself, meaning that a well-targeted missile strike to any of these two locations would cause necessary disruptions for this thing to lose contact, lag, or even shut the whole thing down. Jaegers fortunately don't require a satellite uplink to relay commands, which is their most important edge against this particular mech.
Okay.
But shutting down Mechagodzilla is not guaranteed. On the
because even if they could shut it down, couldn't, like, King Ghidorah just take over entirely? Because, like, this goes back to, like, Kiryu, where, like, if the battery goes out, it won't matter because the ghost can just take control over it and then just fight you anyways.
the contrary, if this network's architecture was built in such
If that is how Kiryu works.
a way that it allowed it to go rogue instead of shutting down, humanity would have instigated an even bigger problem by having to deal with Ghidorah's consciousness as the one and only pilot of this killing machine.
So there really is no way.
Do you think humanity can stand a chance against any of these kaiju? How do you think Jaegers would fare against some non-alpha titans in the Monsterverse?
I think they have a better chance against non-alpha monsters, but against Kong, Zilla, and Mecha-G, they're fucked. they just seem like they are just absolutely fucked.
Hit that subscribe button and follow us for more content on your favorite monsters, kaiju, and more. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you.
And the best part about this is that there is a part 2. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check out the original video, which I'll leave the link for it in the description below. And I hope you all have a Merry Christmas, and I will see you all in probably part 2. Goodbye.